Let's do it.
Welcome into another episode of Banditland Boulevard. The Buffalo Bandits are back to 5-5. Trevor Hauer, Tony LaMonica, aka Boxhead98TL. Just a week ago, we were 15 minutes away from being 6-3, doubling up the wins from losses on the record. Now
Mhm.
we are 5-5, just recently swept by the Albany FireWolves, as they are now 8-2 on the year. 13-10 was the final score last night from the KeyBank Center. It, ugh. Some of the stuff, I feel like when we did our post or our preview episode for this game, it was like, what can the Bandits do? Can we do the complete opposite of what
Mhm.
Trev and Tony said? Because it seemed like nothing was going in our favor. We took an early 2-0 lead in that one, and that's
Mhm.
about all you got out of the Bandits last night. Tony, what were your initial thoughts on the 13-10 loss, the sweeping of the Bandits from the Albany Firewolves?
Well, it comes down to where one team is young, the other team is experienced, or at the point where it's getting old fashioned. Now, a lot of people are going to tell me I'm wrong about this, but we need young guys on this team now to step up and take the shoes away from the older guys. Um, After that loss and now going to 5-5, what does this tell people of Buffalo? What does this tell the fans of the Bandits? Number one question is, when do we get a face-off guy? We need a face-off guy
Yesterday.
desperately. And I'm not saying
Yesterday we needed
about
one.
McKay or Robinson or Fraser or
Solver.
whoever else takes the face-off dot, but we need a face-off guy. We need someone to win the draws to where we could set the tone of the game. And after that experience again, nearly going another goose egg in the face-off dot, but that's got to be a warning, a red flag, a warning sign, something to clarify the team's uh, coaches and the general staff and everybody else to say we need a face-off guy back.
Tony, I think
That's number one.
the warning was already there. This is like a hurricane warning. Like you saw after the maybe week 3 against Colorado, like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, we got dominated in the faceoff circle. Like that's the warning because you got these tough
Yeah.
teams coming up like Toronto and Albany back then.
Yeah.
You had all these weeks to prep against teams that have Joe Nardella on that roster or Withers on their roster like Halifax. And
Correct.
they simply just did not address that position. And
No.
now the Hurricane is a Cat 4, and you didn't set up a shelter or anything. You're sitting in the middle of the storm. They gave you
That's it.
that warning, and the Bandits management, they did nothing to address this position. It's disgusting. Two face-off wins in the last 2 games. You're averaging one face-off win per game. Last week you
That's
got
bad.
nothing. What is 32 plus 27? 50
60.
59? You're
They're 59 to 60.
2 of 59 in your last 2 games.
That's sad.
And I was talking to people on our way out. We parked in the Templeton lot last night after the loss. I said
Yeah.
back in like '08 and '09, the face-off position wasn't really valued. We had Brandon Francis taking face-offs for this team. And
Mm-hmm.
like it really now you're bringing in these players from the outdoor leagues. That's their
Right.
specialty. The times have changed. Dietrich, you should know that these times have changed. Ian McKay
Mm-hmm.
has said on Twitter after week 3 that he is not a face-off guy, and he's your number one face-off getter. He publicly put that out there on Twitter that he's not your face-off guy, or he's not a
Mm-hmm.
face-off guy. He's a transition. Dalton Solver is not a face-off guy either. Dylan
No.
Robinson is a defenseman. He's not a face-off guy either.
That's right.
Chase Fraser is a forward. He's not a Fogo either.
Mm-hmm.
It
It's pretty
stems
sad to
from
see that.
this. And us, you spoiled a fantastic. I'm not, yeah, fantastic. I'm gonna say solid performance from your backup goaltender and Devlin Shanahan was spoiled because when you don't win faceoffs, you don't get as many possessions as you want. And when you go into a game against a 7-2 team, you got your backup in there. Faceoffs
Mm-hmm.
should be a priority. They just weren't. I mean,
Yeah.
they made them look easy, and those 2 faceoffs that they won, I mean, they weren't clean by any stretch of the imagination. Like they were digging out the ball in the right at the halfway line for like 5 seconds, and the Bandits just somehow came up with the ball. Like they weren't clean face-off wins by any stretch of the imagination, but 2 of 59, and
Mm-hmm.
that you know that you have a backup going into this game. It came out at 11:30 yesterday morning. Faceoffs and possessions and loose balls should have been a priority, and they weren't. And you also didn't give Devlin Shanahan any support by taking 8 penalties. Freaking Albany went 4 of 8 on the power play. And you
Yeah,
could
that
say
was
the
pretty
refs,
bad.
whatever. I think the only BS call last night, I'm not even going to blame the referees. The only BS call last night was the illegal cross-check from Nick Weiss, I believe, in the third quarter, I think it
Yeah, it
was.
wasn't even a check at all. Didn't even see him like
No.
persistent checking
That
from
one,
behind.
and the Bandits in the first quarter, when they got into that little scrum,
Hmm.
when they had the 5-on-3, the Bandits
Yeah,
started that. Because when they get upset, when they get frustrated, when they're losing or whatever the case is, they take dumb penalties. You saw that in game 2 of the NLL finals last year. You saw that in the Colorado regular season game last year. You saw that in the Toronto regular season game last year up in Hamilton.
yeah,
When they get frustrated, they let the frustration get the best of them and they take dumb penalties. So a
correct.
lot of this was bad. The only
Yeah,
bright spot was that if Matt Vince is on the shelf for 2 to 4 weeks, like I guess they said that on 1520 last night, that he's out 2 to 4 weeks,
yeah,
uh, you have a solid backup to on the shelf, and you also have Josh Byrne, who's continuously scoring hat tricks every single game. But that second half the offense went completely AWOL, couldn't hit a soccer goal with those shots they were taking.
no,
Tony, it was just a bad, bad game on such an important night, a Native American Heritage Night. Like, we were
yeah,
rocking the awesome threads. The place was packed. It was a loud house.
hmm,
Frankie Brown came back in the lineup. Zach Belter was the most physical player on the field yesterday.
yes, he was.
And from all accounts, in that second half, you laid a fat egg.
That was, yeah, especially in the third quarter when it looked like it was not going to go anybody's way in that quarter. That was a time where you needed to attack them, is to really get into Jameson's head, shoot low when you needed to. But again, get fake him. He's not going to move as fast as like any other goaltender out there was. And about Shanahan, about a lot of the people saying, well, oh my God, this guy does not have the playing time. Well, of course he doesn't have the playing time. Vince has been playing almost every single game for the Bandits for the last how many years?
He's the
This
best
kid comes
goalie.
out, he's backed up, and honestly, out of his performance, he's faced quite a lot of shots. I mean, they ended up having 59 total, and he stopped 46. So, guys, that's impressive to me. I don't know if that's impressive to anybody else, but that goalie kept us in the game. So, really, realistically, dumb penalties hurt us,
Yep.
and the offense was struggling in the second half. You can't blame that on goaltending. He kept you
No.
in the game. But
And
especially when we saw when Devlin Shanahan had the loose balls right in front of our defensemen's faces, you got to pick those loose balls up.
yep.
There's no excuse. Not like you said, Trevor, there's not one hand on the stick. Both hands
Mm-hmm.
grab it and go. That's
Yep.
all there is to it.
Yep. And we also said this previously before. If you're not going to win faceoffs, which, I mean, for the love of God, they can't win a faceoff. Their life depended on it. But
Right.
you got to get every loose ball. How many rebounds did those guys pick up yesterday? Like, there were some
Albany
instances.
or Buffalo?
Yeah, Albany.
Albany, almost every single one.
My God, like in the fourth quarter, I remember I think Dane took a shot. It hit the post. He went on a breakaway late in the fourth to make it
Yep.
almost. If he scored that goal, it would have been a completely different outlook because it would
Could
have
have
been
been a game
12.
changer.
Would have been 12-11 with a minute 15 to play. He hit the
Yeah.
post. There's 4 Bandits standing right there. Tell me how an
Mhm.
Albany player 4-on-1, he's the one that scoops it up. I mean, that's
Mhm.
absolutely unacceptable. The loose ball. If you're not going to win a faceoff, you got to get every loose ball.
You
You've
have
seen
to.
so many defenders that are flat-footed. Guys, this is your backup goalie. You can't afford to stand flat-footed. They were pretty solid in the third quarter.
Mhm.
We got shut out. They scored 1 in the
That
third
was it.
quarter. It's a bunch of different problems with this team right now. I personally, Tony, I think the lights are too bright for them. They've been chasing for the cup for the last 15 years.
Yep.
And now they finally get it, and they've been chasing that dragon for 15 years. They finally catch it, and they say, "What am I supposed to do with it? What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing?" And the lights are way too bright for these guys. They have to know that the teams are gunning for them, and it can't just be Josh Byrne here to save the day, or it can't just
No.
be Chase Fraser to save the day. We need when we need Dane Smith to score, he's shooting it wide or hitting the post. I mean, we need these guys to step up. We need the offense to step up, especially when your top goalie's on the shelf. You need your defense and you need your face-off guys to go out there and win face-offs and support your goalie. I mean, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it was a great performance from him because I think he got beat by the hidden ball trick a couple times.
Yes, he did.
But and some of the I think one of the toughest goals to save is the dunk around the net, the Gary Gate goal, which I think he
Yep.
gave up yesterday too to make it 9-7. But it's just when Doug Jamieson has more goals on the score sheet than Dane Smith, that's how you know the game's going wrong. I mean, Doug Jamieson scoring an empty net goal, and then as soon as that happened, I said, "I'm out. Goodbye."
That's
I mean,
it.
I
Yeah.
think they scored that goal with like 6 seconds to go. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I see all these fans saying, "Oh, it's so cool to see a goalie score." It might be cool from a lacrosse fan standpoint, but like when you're a Bandits fan and you're sitting in 106 like me and you see that happen right in front of you, right? Like the goal right in front of you, that happens.
Yeah,
I almost projectile vomited. That's disgusting to watch. And
it
then
is, especially against us.
I don't even know what happened at the end of the game, Tony. Were they yelling at each other and the refs had to get involved? That's why they didn't shake their hands?
Well, I think because no matter what, they think it would have been a bad turnout. It would have been probably a whole bench brawl. We would have seen everyone fighting. Even probably Johnny T and the coaching staff would have probably gotten in their face too and probably fought them too as well. So I think the referees, even though a lot of people were in the stands were saying, "Oh, it's not classy for them not to shake hands and not to be cool and professional about the matter." Yeah, you lost, you still lost, or you still won. You still shake the opponent's hands, but honestly, the referees were not going to have it because they knew something was going to go down. And only one name brings to mind about that. And he was an instigator from start to finish from last time. And that's his name is Leo Storos. And
Yep.
Leo needs to, I don't understand with the whole abolishing or the instigating penalties, but that should have been called a few times during that game because all he is a shit starter. And and that's something that either like NFL, that's called taunting. In the NHL, I don't know what you call
Yep.
it,
It's probably
but
unsportsmanlike.
it's unsportsmanlike. So again, where's the unsportsmanlike calls? Why aren't these referees buckling down and saying, "Hey, all right, you got your piece out, but the next time you say it, we're gonna have to call you for 2 minutes unsportsmanlike, or or for taunting, whatever it is you want to
Yep.
call it." But that's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Yep.
What does that do? That makes you a target. That makes people want to headhunt you. That makes you want to go, "Oh, I'm gonna talk all this smack and then when I get my ass kicked." And then it's like, well, what did I do? You knew what you did. It's just you choose to run your mouth. And what happens is you're gonna FA and FO means fuck around and find out.
Yep.
That's basically what you want. You want someone to hurt you? Fine. I'd rather see the Bandits hurt them on the scoreboard than rather have them fall into the stupidity of his mouth. But that's what happened once again. They did it in Albany, and now they did it in Buffalo. What more could I possibly say about that except keep your heads in the game? Hurt them where it hurts most is on the scoreboard. What do? They didn't do it at all.
Nope. And Albany goes 4 of 8 on the power play because there's
because
a reason.
You allowed them that.
Yep. There's a reason why they're so good on the man up. They're like, "Oh my God, we are baiting this team into taking penalties. Let's score on every single
every
power
team.
play."
It's not just us, though. I know that for a fact.
Yep. Well, you mentioned Leo Storos, number one.
He's the one that causes the problem. So
in the second quarter, when there was a whole fight, and I don't even know how you call a 5-minute roughing. I thought that was always a double minor, but I've never seen a 5-minute rough being called in my entire life. But I want to say shout out to Colton Watkinson with the Albany FireWolves. Congratulations on beating the crap out of a guy who's like half your size in Justin Martin. You must feel pretty fucking good about yourself. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, you want to fight someone, fight Priolo. Oh wait, no, I forgot. Priolo was getting jumped on by I think it was Grennan, who also like hip tossed the referee off of him just to punch Steve Priolo like 4 more times in the face when they were already on the ground.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right, Nathan Grennan.
I think the referees they controlled it as much as they could, but when there's a brawl there, and I saw the video, somebody put it on Bandits Mafia, like he's on top of Priolo, and the ref's trying to break it up, and Grennan like hip tosses the official out of the way to punch Priolo like 3 more times. If we did that, we'd be suspended
in my book.
Yep, but you know what? They can't see everything when like chaos like that's going on. But when we're losing, I don't know why this has happens, but we turn into the Toronto Rock all of a sudden. We let the
Yeah.
frustration get the best of us, and we start taking shots at other players. Guys, you're not the Toronto Rock. You're the Buffalo Bandits, and I'm so sick and tired of seeing that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Cam Wires on right after a 30-second shot clock violation, we were going to get the ball back going the other way in the fourth quarter. He takes a
Right.
dumb slashing penalty behind the net. Like,
If
what
you want to call it
makes
slash or
sense in
whatever
that?
that is. Yeah.
I think he shoved him and slashed him. It should have been interference or whatever the call was, but I'm like, we're getting the
Yeah.
ball back
Slashing.
going the other way. We mention
Yeah.
all the time you can't win a damn face-off, so take all the possessions that you need.
Mm-hmm.
When you mix 2 of 27 in the face-off dot, 16 minutes in minor penalty or 16 minutes in power plays given to the best team in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't scoop up a loose ball to save your life. The fact that it was only 13-10, you should be thanking yourselves and thanking your lucky stars that this thing wasn't a blowout.
Yeah.
Albany could have run the score up on these guys. And
They
the
sure could have.
Bandits, where was this pressure? And like with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, where was that all the third quarter? We're
That's
scoring
right.
a garbage time goal with Tehoka and a garbage time goal with Chris Cloutier late in the fourth. Where was that?
Mm-hmm.
Where
I
was
don't
that
know.
in the third quarter? Like it was a back and forth third quarter. It was entertaining to watch those goaltenders play out, but
Yeah.
and show up. And I love seeing a low scoring goaltending duel.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people like that. They like the high scoring stuff, but I'm in it for the low scoring like goaltending duels. That's why I thought the Georgia game back in December was one of the most entertaining games I've been to, despite the loss, because it was the
Right.
battle between the two goalies. Who was
Yeah.
gonna blink
Between
first?
Vince and Dobson.
Yep. I personally love those games, but how are you going to score those? Maybe Jameson was easing up a little bit when they had the 4-goal lead. That's the only thing I can think of. You scored those 2 garbage time goals, but
Right.
we got to be more consistent offensively. And we say play a full 60. I don't think we played a full 25. We went on a 25-minute stretch without a goal last night
That's
coming out of the
sad.
half.
That's sad. Sad to even hear that stat there,
Yep.
because what is this offense trying to do? You got the keys. It's the same team from last year's championship run, basically on offense. What is going on? It's got to be some sort of inside chemistry that something's not clicking right, or we're just playing like garbage lacrosse. I don't know what you want to say, but they need to get their heads out of the rear ends and start playing as one instead of playing as individuals out there, because it's like, all right, I'll take over. No, I'll take over. I'll take over. No, you got to stop that.
Yep.
It's a one pass, one shot opportunity. So stop with the passing. Stop trying to be fancy. You're down so many goals. Like, let's go back to the fourth quarter. You're down 4 goals in the fourth with like 4 minutes left. What is not telling you to say we got to press? We got to keep going. We got to get Pepper Jameson until he pukes in his own equipment.
Yep.
That's what you got to do. That's what they've been doing all game, is getting under your skin, getting the shots that they need, and just attacking the goaltender. The only way you can't, it's like what's his name? When Herb Brooks back in the 80s Miracle.
Yep.
If you don't defend them, you attack them. You play the same style they do, and it's going to be down to who's the better team. Obviously, Albany was the better team, and that's what happened, is because of the fact that they kept pressing and pushing and getting all the shots they need to beat Shanahan and the defense. And look what happens. They walked away with the brooms, cleaning the KeyBank Center with them, and marching back to Albany, sweeping the Bandits this year. So again, it comes down to where you need to put up or shut up now. It's either you go out and play your best, or it's time to hang the jersey, because it's like now it's coming down to a point where when you're trying to defend a title, it's either you do it or you just hand it over. It's basically that's what you're doing, is handing over the next championship to whoever is going to want to take it.
Yep.
It's like there's no fire in this team left anymore.
I got to
They
ask
just
the
dropped
question.
after the last 2.
Are the lights too bright? Like, you got that championship and now you're like, looking down at all these teams, you're like, oh my God, like
It could be a yes or no kind of question, but I mean, yes, because now that the spotlight's on you and everyone's like, oh, we could beat these guys up. We know how to beat their flaws. We know how to beat their things. And it's all about the media and it's all about them winning the championship and showboating about it. No, and then here's my other question. I'm sure half the roster on the team's going, no, we have to set the example of why we're a dynasty team or we should be a dynasty team is to keep the mentality, keep the pressure against other teams because they know they're going to come at you because now you're at the top of the mountain. They're going to try knocking you down and they're going to be at the top. And
Yep.
It's very difficult to defend if you don't compete against whatever teams is out there. Like I said, no team should be unlooked. And that's the fact you did it again with Albany.
Yep. And you usually play up. This time we played a good 16 minutes and said, you know what? We had a 2-0 lead. We'll count that as a win. But the penalties got to stop. We have a couple positive hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
Number one, we're still in 6th in the standings. We're still in a playoff spot. So we went from 5th, I believe, to 6th right now. And I think there's a game. I don't know if there's a game going on today, as far as I'm concerned. The only downside to that is that Calgary is also 5-5. So we are playing for a tiebreaker at the end of the year with Fan Appreciation Night against those guys. But there's a couple hypothetical positives about this. If you're still in a playoff spot as the weeks go by, and and let's say Max Adler comes back, I will firmly step on this show and say the championship window is back. The championship is back on. I will say that because all of our overwhelming problems right now, and we can talk about the offense. I think part of the reason why the offense sucks right now is because we're not getting as many possessions as we should be getting from the faceoffs.
Right. That's right.
So the number one problem is faceoffs. If he comes back tomorrow and says, I'm playing against Vancouver, done. Championship's back on. We are right back in contention. That's the positive. Another positive is we got Vancouver and Saskatchewan, 2 teams that are on life support right now as their season hangs in the balance. If that loss against Halifax and that loss at home against Albany, 3 out of your 5 losses are at home. Guys, that's unacceptable. Home losses, I think you lost to Georgia, New York, and Albany at home. Like, we can't have that.
No.
You're going to get a pissed off Bandits team going into Vancouver that's going to beat up on an already beaten team, hopefully. I think that should be the mentality. But you got to prove that you can win faceoffs. You got to hang with these guys. And then you got Saskatchewan after that. Do you think, Tony, Toronto is looking at us on the schedule? We play them in the St. Paddy's Day game. Saturday the 16th, Steve Austin Day, March 16th. Do you think that they're looking at us and saying, like, salivating at the mouth going, oh my God, I want a piece of this vulnerable Bandits team right now?
Well, yeah, that kind of like opens up their eyes and says, well, look what Albany's doing. Look what they're based on they're doing. And they're just beating us up. And the way how they're frothing from the mouth is because I'm going to take you along with me for a second.
You're taking everybody with you, bro.
Yeah. Basically, I would say give Toronto now that they're like, well, they beat us in Toronto, but you know what? We're still on top. We're still 8-2. But you know what scares me is that they're going to come into our house. Corey Small is going to have one of the biggest games of his life, knowing the fact that they should have hung on to him. But until then, I would be having enough towels to wipe off a lot of sweat because you're frightened. You're playing frightened now. That's another thing you got to watch out for.
Your tail is tucked between your legs.
That's right. So I'm going to be right back. I'll be right back.
I got you. I mean, I'm going to take over real quick. It's the teams. I mean, the teams that have the best face-off guys have way more possessions. They get the offense going. A big reason why we beat Toronto in Toronto was the fact that they were missing their Fogo guy, and we scored 16. They were missing half their roster, and they still scored 14 against us. Tony said it perfectly. We're playing scared. And how? I like Steve Dietrich as a GM, but how in the world are you looking at 2-59 in the face-off dot in your last 2 games, and you're not doing shit about it? unless he's working something behind the scenes. But no, we're going to trade Alex Q for a 6th. How does that help us now? We're going to trade for Corey Highfield, and Corey Highfield looked okay. He had a couple chances last night. Frank Brown is back. That's pretty good. But you knew that this team was not going to go 14-4 this year because everybody's going to be gunning for them. And for the first time since 2018, this team will not finish 14-4 or better this year. They have 5 losses on the year for the first time since 2018. So we don't have to hear this 14-4 streak talk anymore. Now it should be crunch time for these guys now. Because if I look back and I look at this schedule, you come off of 2 losses in a row, one against Halifax, one against Albany. You were 15 minutes away from being 6-3. Fast forward, now you're 5-5. Now you're looking at Vancouver March 1st at 10 o'clock on Friday, March 1st. Then you're looking at Saskatchewan Friday the 8th at home, where you really haven't been defending your home turf as well as you should be. Then you got Toronto at home for St. Patrick's Day. Then you're at Panther City, who are struggling. Then you're at Philadelphia, who is struggling. Then you're at Colorado, who's really struggling. Hosting Calgary, who is struggling but are in the playoffs. And then you're at Las Vegas, who's really struggling right now. There are positives and negatives. All it takes is one signing, or maybe number 6 coming back, for the fan base, at least for me, to say the championship is back on. But 5-5, when you were a quarter away from going 6-3, is not just heartbreaking, but it's unacceptable. You got to prove to the league that you are the defending champs. You can't just let these teams walk all over you. And for all we know, Albany can be that 1 seed going into the playoffs that's one and done because they couldn't handle being at the top. But as long as you're in a spot, you have a legitimate shot at going all the way. And if Matt Vince is on the shelf for 2 to 4 weeks, let's look at this hypothetically. Let's say that let's play devil's advocate and say that Matt Vince is out 4 weeks. You got Devlin Shanahan, so this week counts as 1. Then you have the next week against, who are you playing next? Yeah, you got Vancouver. Then you got, my God, I'm so bad with this, Saskatchewan and Toronto. That's 4 weeks. Your goaltender was not the problem. You should win those games without Matt Vince, for sure. And it's not like Matt Vince was all that stellar, in those games before, because in his last 4 games, he gave up 14 to Halifax. He gave up 14 to Rochester, 14 to Toronto, and 15 to New York. He's showing his age. Devlin Shanahan in 1 game gave up less goals than Matt Vince did in his last 4. So to anyone that was saying in this game that Devlin Shanahan was a problem, I'm sorry, he wasn't. It's the AWOL offense in the second quarter, the freaking faceoffs, the penalties, and catching the defense flat-footed. By the deadline, Steve Dietrich has work to do. First of all, you need to decide, and this should be an easy decision. Are you contenders or are you pretenders? Are you buyers or are you sellers? If you're the defending champions, you should absolutely be buyers at the deadline. If Adler isn't back by the deadline, shut him down for the season, which I think he's already on the protected player list, and go find someone else, because this is ridiculous. 2 of 59. That has to be close to a record. That's terrible. Terrible. Losing 3 out of the 5 losses are at home? That's also terrible. What in the world are we doing right now? We got the work cut out for us here. We absolutely have the work cut out for us here. And it is going to get easier statistically. But with this team right now, the inconsistencies on offense, can we legitimately look at this team just over halfway through the season and say, yes, this team is by far ready to defend their crown? Or is this, they might need a year off, they'll be back in it next year? We have to ask ourselves that as a fan base. I see on Facebook and Bandits Mafia and Twitter, this team sucks. I see comments like that, and I see all it takes, and then I see, you know, more logical responses like all we need is a face off guy and we're contenders again. I'm more so on that route. All we need is one guy that can take face offs. This team does not suck. They've been sucking lately. The Buffalo Bandits do not suck. They haven't sucked for a while, maybe since they picked Josh Byrne first overall. But I can
Sorry
tell
about
you,
that.
you're all good. But I can tell you this right now, Tony, right before we go to our sponsor.
Mhm.
Can, we're in week 13. We've played 10 games just over halfway through the season. Do
Yeah.
you legitimately look at this Buffalo Bandits team as number one, a playoff contender, number two, ready to defend their title?
To answer that question, as a playoff contender, the way they're playing right now, no. Because the scary thing about it is that they're playing like they think they still run the ship. And right now, guys, you're not playing like you run the ship. It's like you're still looking back like those 15 years ago and thinking to ourselves, man, I would love to be at the top of the mountain. But you guys are already there. You guys got to stop thinking that you're not good enough for this league. You're the one who sets the bar. You're the one who sets the tone. But you got to fix the things that you have to other than that, say you're a playoff team. Now, repeat, what was your second question?
Defending the title. I think you already answered it right there. I think I think that they're playing scared right now. They're not ready to defend anything as far as week 13 is concerned. Now, if they go up and rip Vancouver apart next week,
Mm-hmm.
of course the vibes will be better on this show, and you
Of
should
course.
beat Vancouver. If you lose to those guys, oh my God, we got a problem on our hands. But Vancouver and Saskatchewan and Toronto, you notoriously beat Toronto all the time. There is no excuse for this team to not be 8-5 by
Mhm.
March 17th, by St. Patrick's Day. There is zero excuse why this team should not be 8-5.
That would be something, but they got to prove it to themselves. Don't prove it to the fans. Prove it to yourselves because that's the only people that you need to worry about. And, especially with Johnny T and the coaching staff and guys, you've been in this situation before where, this is where life takes its toll. And you got to like say to yourself, what am I playing for now? Play for your pride. Play for the fact that you are a champion of the NLL. Play for the fact that you are the best in the game at this moment. You got to prove that to not only us, you don't have to prove that to us. We know you're the best, but
Yep.
you got to just show it to yourselves. Go out there and play to have fun. Where's that mentality? Like the sport was fun to play. And when you have fun, good things come to you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
get back on that track, guys, because believe me, it's going like it's like in bowling. I'll say my captain always told me, go back to basics and watch what happens. Your game starts to go flawless and you'll get over 200s almost every game or
And you start
whatever.
to have
It's the
fun.
same thing in lacrosse. Go back to basics. Get back to loving the sport. Go back to loving your teammates and playing as one and not as individuals. That's what's going to help you win the games. Stop worrying about the opposition running their mouth. Just beat them where it hurts the most, and that's on the scoreboard.
I'll tell you who had fun. The rookie Ty Kurtz, I'm going to give the player of the game to. 6 goals, 1 assist as a rookie. Scored a shot trick and got 7 points against the Bandits. Player of the game. He was definitely having fun last night, Tony. You could tell.
Yes, he was. And especially Alex Simmons, too. That's one of the key guys that I was telling everybody to watch for. And sure enough, he found a way. He didn't score as much, but he was a playmaker and he was out there producing goals. And that's what's scary. So, again, kudos to Shanahan of our
Yep.
goaltending to keep
Hats
them in the
off.
game as best as he possibly can. He played good. He didn't play great, but he played good enough where
Oh,
they could keep him in this game.
and he's
But
going to play like a pissed off human being next Friday, too. He's like, I
I
play
would
well
believe
enough
so
to
if
win
he
that
gets the
game.
nod again.
He should. He should. He's definitely earned it. I think he definitely earned it.
So we'll
But
see
yeah,
how well. But again, for the new guy,
13-10.
Zach Belter, to come in for his first game,
Oh, he
rocky
was a
start, like
physical
Cam
machine,
Wires
though.
was.
But a physical threat on the. I
Very
mean,
physical. We like that.
yeah.
That means teams are not going to get easy goals. But again, you got to play a little bit smarter and just keep the opposition from getting that last second shot. So make sure the shots on net are away from our goaltender at all times as much as possible. But again, kudos on Zach Belter being the big, tall defenseman that we need. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a pretty gritty guy. So
Yep.
Not bad,
I'm
but
looking
again,
forward to seeing
shake the
more from him,
cobwebs
though.
and let's go. And same goes for Frank Brown. He hasn't played in a long while,
Oh, he
and
looked like
now
he
this is
didn't
his
miss a
first time.
step. He looked like he didn't even
But
miss a
true,
step. Yeah.
true. But again, it's things have changed. He's got to be more careful about not taking silly penalties. But again,
Yep.
his grittiness too is out there too. So we got
like
a tough defensive core. We do.
like it. 13-10 final from the KeyBank Center. Bandits are 5-5. Tony, we got to hit him with the sponsor before we sign off for this one.
Sure do. And we like to thank those who are our main sponsor is Mitchell's Tavern, located at 734 Sheridan Drive up in Tonawanda, New York. Guys, if you haven't tried it yet, please go do so. It's got the best beef and wick in town, and it's also got amazing service led by Lisa Fideli and Nick Crusto, who's the owner, and they got a great crew. So if you guys want to have a good time, have great bar food, and enjoy good company, that's a place to go. Because mention us from Banditland Boulevard, myself and Trevor the Power Hour over there. For those who are watching us on YouTube, please give us that like and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell from every time Buffalo Bandits Banditland Boulevard pops onto your screen.
Yes, sir.
We want you guys to keep on watching us and supporting us as well. And for the fans who want to get on board, if they want to have questions about the situations of the losses or the wins, or just talk strictly Bandits lacrosse, please hit us a message. We will be glad to put you on the show. It's not that hard to do. Just message us if you want. We'll get you back on the show. If you have been a past member, we would love to have you back on the show too as well. And we'd also like to thank our listeners from every device on demand, with the phone, the tablet, the radio stations everywhere on Spotify.fm and Anchor.
Yes,
Give us that 5-star rating about your Buffalo Bandits lacrosse needs.
I think with that, it doesn't matter if we're 5-5 or 5-12. If we're undefeated, we're always going to end the show with these 3 words, Tony. And we can win 0 face-offs the rest of the year, but you'll never catch us not saying these 3 words. And what are they, Tony?
Ready?
Yep.
Let's go Bandits.
Let's go.
Let's go.